Awesome. So with that, I might start. Hello, everyone. This is Murilo speaking. Thank you for sharing all your stories with us. And I'm very happy to be here representing Caiman Lodge. Just so you get a sense, what is the current situation? It's a very hot day outside. We are on the middle of the 7th heat wave in 2024. And roughly 2 months ago, we have been badly hit by a wildfire. And this presentation, I will focus on this fire event and how we are dealing with the aftermath of it after 2 months. And firstly, I will show you some of the initiatives we already developed since the late 80s that fit into the 4 Cs. Thanks, Joanna, and everyone listening. So the first slide shows us a geographical context. We are in the heart of South America, right in the middle. The brown patch is the Pantanal area, about 2% of the national territory. And zooming in a little bit, we see this colorful area in the middle of this map, which are some different Pantanais. Some authors classify up to 19. We are using this map with 11 subregions, and we are down south on this salmon patch. If you all can see my cursor on the screen. And about a 4-hour drive from Campo Grande, the capital. So 1 hour drive from the nearest town, Miranda, and all of the Pantanal comprehends 2 states, also deep into Bolivia and Paraguay as well. And now zooming into that salmon patch, we get the property overview, which has this L shape. The boundaries are on the white lines, and we are down south. The main lodge is down south. On the dark stain is the permanent lake just out of the lodge. And this whole area is mosaic of floodable wetlands, some hummocks, forest vegetation, some cordillera forest, this stripes, really narrow and curvy forest landscapes. And now focusing on the green patches, these are the 2 official reserves we have here at Caiman Lodge. North, neighboring the Aquidauana River, we have the legal reserve, about 20% of the property, and down south, closer to us, what we call a natural heritage private reserve. I will dive into it a bit further on. The property owner is Roberto Clabin, and now, since the mid-80s, he started developing the property into this tripod of scientific research, ecotourism, which were the 2 new activities back in the day, and keeping the cattle range and the livestock, which has been around the Pantanal for nearly 300 years now. And of course, lowering a lot the number of cattle heads. Now we are less than a fifth that it was back in the day. And these are some of the accommodations. The main house now since 2021 operating with 18 rooms, but also the 2 other lodges back in the day, which now work as private villas. One is deactivated for renovations. The second one, Baiazinha Lodge, on the up left corner of the slide, Baiazinha Lodge. So these 2 are now working as private villas. No, sorry, only Baiazinha Lodge, but soon enough we'll have Cordillera running again. And of course, the main activity we do with our guests, our game drives and night drives, focusing on the wildlife, interpretation of the landscape, the flora, all that we can handle. Also, we try and fit every group a canoe trip by the permanent lake just outside, a magical moment for our guests. The bushwalks are also very special activity that you get to feel the forest landscapes from deep inside. And now getting into the 4 Cs, of course, we are GER certified, and I will mention some initiatives that we develop on the 4Cs, fixing the 4Cs. The scientific research projects, the oldest one, Hyacinth Macaw Institute, now the original base here since about 30 years ago. The second one in the middle with the blue-fronted or turquoise-fronted Amazon or parrot. This one special bird is the most trafficked bird worldwide. So as we have a steady and healthy population of these individuals, they are now focusing on some different areas where the illegal trade is going on. And more recently now, 13 years of age, the Jaguar team on Safari Association doing an amazing work with this cat in the Americas. Now, some of the other scientific research projects surveying the Brazilian bats with the Federal University of Mato Grosso do Sul state, and also with the same university and exotic grass monitoring since the 2019 fire event we had to check on how these populations of grasses are taking the native grass landscapes, and also a more recent project with the amphibians surveying the sounds, trying to ID as many species as we can. I mentioned the private reserve in Brazil. In Portuguese, we call it RPPN, which stands for Natural Heritage Private Reserve. It is a unique model in Brazil. Once you establish one by the goodwill of the landowner, it gets into the national units of conservation. And finally, there are no legal means of dissolving it. So if the property gets sold, whatever happens, it will always be a reserve, and you have many obligations towards it. You have to develop a management plan for the area, and you can develop only two activities actually: environmental education, scientific research, and tourism. Ecotourism would fit into the environmental education side of it. Now, this is one slide showing the whole property being split in two, which is since throughout last year and early this year, we have working hard to establish this new institute, joining the northern part of the property with the southern part, and the two official reserves are now part of an institute that will keep the legacy of Roberto Clabin and Maria Angela that they first dreamt back in the day for the property. So whatever happens with the heirs of the property, they will not be able to touch this, as it will be part of this institute. Now this slide shows us, if you can see the L shape back again on the bottom right of the slide is the Caiman Lodge property, and all of the red areas are neighboring properties that are like-minded people working hard to a set of standards that you don't deforest, you keep the cattle ranching on a sustainable level, and of course don't hunt for any wildlife, don't poach for any wildlife. The green patch is one state park, and all of that forms one of the largest private ecological corridors, counting up to 430,000 hectares. Now, some of the activities still on the conservation, we treat our effluents on the main house and now the staff village, and one of the private lodge, the one operating by Azinha Lodge, and a water treatment station as well. This recycling material collection center is since 2020, we have been destining the material adequately. Composting, so all the organic waste goes to composting. And now to this culture side C of the 4Cs. We host an annual festival every year with the main aspects of the Pantaneiros culture. Also for our guests, twice a week, we offer this typical Pantaneiro barbecue in the Pantanal fashion. Amazing moment for the guests. And On our reception, we have this small shop with some of the indigenous handicraft from communities close to Miranda, Aquidauana, the nearest town, that we provide some good space for them to get the profit as well. The horseback rides are an optional activity for the guests, but finally it's one traditional way of experiencing the landscape, and also for all the community game drives, anniversaries, events. Also for the community, we provide a dentist and practitioner every 2 months and 1 month. And these are some of the photos and the environmental education activities with the kids in our community school, which holds from grade 1 to 9, a multi-series class, a big challenge for the teacher, a sports court, and of course this commerce is sustained by the 2 economic activities, the hotel business, wildlife observation, and the cattle ranching. Now diving into the fire events we have had back in the day and still active fires. The whole continent, the South America, Midwest, South and Southeast, North are all affected by the air pollution, by wildfires going all over. Starting from the first event in 2019, we were not prepared, and we had about 60% of the property burnt on the fire that swept the lower levels of the vegetation. Some of the canopy was still alive on the aftermath. And then in 2021, we were more prepared. We have had a lightning in the middle of the property. Fire started, it hit about 15% of the property, but we could handle the situation. In 2022, we also had 2 fire events, but also we could handle the situation. But now in 2024, we are having a record dry season in the Pantanal and in South America. And that we were expecting that we might have some bad situation, but not like it hit us by a surprise. So I will show you some of the initiatives since 2019. We started developing these fire stoppers all across the properties and the fire management, prevention management plan, some fire brigades training as well, equipment, people, resource that can actually fight the fire and not be desperate running all around. So now we are much more prepared than in 2019. And this map shows us the evolution of some of the fire stoppers. So the green lines are all the fire breakers. And of course, the roads, the orange lines, the red lines also works as fire stoppers or easy access roads. So if you have to fight an active fire. And now this image are a set of a series of images that explains that shows us the evolution of this last fire that is still active and has hit about 300,000 hectares in the region. So if we consider the first image on the top left, you will see the property, the L shape highlighted in yellow line, and the dark patch is already what we have had a fire that was a reignition from a prescribed fire trying to protect some of the areas. So we have had the prescribed or fire management prevention fires, and finally it reignited. We could fight it. It was pretty bad. It hit about 15% of the property, but up in the image you see a red orange dot is where this fire originated on July 23rd. And on this second image we can already see the smoke and the prevailing winds bringing it down south. On July 25th it has hit a big area already, and 26th it spreads westwards. So still we were not in the worst situation, as we have had the fuel very low on this area of the property. But finally, coming to July 27th and 28th, the fire start spreading eastwards. And by July, now on this right side of the image, on August 1st is where the situation got critical. So August 2nd and 3rd was the strong hit in the property. It got into many areas, and finally, if we check now August 6th, now the aftermath, some of the areas still burning, but the fire has now been through the property. And how are we coping with the situation after the fire? Now, it has been a disaster, and these are some of the images on the ground. This is just like 100 meters from the staff village, and from above as well. On the private reserve and the forest vegetations, it has hit pretty bad. Also, lots of smoke out in the air. And these are some of the photos from the aftermath. So there was no foliage cover on the canopy of the trees on the ground. The animals were desperate, the ones that survived. And since then, we started a joint effort with all the partner projects in the property, rescuing some of the wildlife. So in the left, we have one of the tapirs was found critically dehydrated with its feet all burnt. And the same happened with some of the jaguars as well. So we have now 2 tapirs on UCI, extreme care, and this jaguar has been transferred to one organization that is now taking good care of it, and soon enough it might come back. Also, another initiative is the food supplementation. We consider that the animals had no foliage, no resource at all. So we started with testing some roots, some fruits, all the guides team together, cutting fruits, and we chose 15 points spread out in the property so we could offer this supplementation. And as we see on the right, some of the capuchin monkeys are taking good care of the eggs. The toucans are everywhere. And also large mammals, the largest land mammals, the tapir, taking advantage of it. And of course, other initiatives together with the whole community, starting a plant nursery, collecting seeds out in the field, and seed bombing with the kids in our school has been quite a fun activity to do. We're planning to do that so with the guests coming soon, as we are reopening early next month. And this is one more complex structure that we have been developing, is a shelter for the wildlife. As we have noticed in our tours, on extreme hot days, we have jaguars and other wildlife taking shelter on these water pipes down on the roads. The temperature can be as 5 Celsius degrees lower than in the outside, so that is one good place for them to refresh themselves throughout the hot hours of the day. And we consider the pipes for this structure, and if you see on the top right, there is a elevation that we have built this all facing north, considering the fire and the prevailing winds. So there's a half moon shape with the elevation about 2.5-3 meters high, and this water hole that will be just on its back. And finally, there will be, if the flood comes and the rain comes, that there will be also some water on the front of it, and we have filled it with some of these concrete pipes. So in a critical situation, the wildlife can take shelter on it. So we have now spread out 7 of these structures, and we don't want actually a fire to hit us once again. So we evaluate how it will behave during a fire, but we expect that if we are actually hit, this might work. And with that, I end this presentation. Thank you a lot, Joanna. Voice is yours.